Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Dr. Colin Zhu, and thank you so much for being here with us. This is the Thrive Bites podcast, and welcome to season 5. Here we talk about 3 things: plant-powered living, enhancing emotional resilience, and creating a thriving mindset. And I interview the most passionate guests here, ranging from physicians to coaches to dietitians to entrepreneurs. And my hope is to give you really informative and high-valued conversations. So please follow us here on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and wherever you hear your podcasts. Come on in, and I can't wait to see you inside. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Thrive Bites. I'm your host, Dr. Colin Zhu, and today I'll be joined with the lovely Dr. Joy Kong. And she shares with us her journey on how she became a regenerative medicine specialist in the fields of anti-aging, stem cell therapy. What is that? So she chronicles her professional career, how she got into it, what are the applications of stem cell therapy, regenerative medicine, and basically where are we going, and how does it play a role in our healthcare landscape? So you don't want to miss this, and definitely stay tuned. Okay, guys. Well, welcome to another episode of Thrive Bites podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Colin Zhu, and thank you so much for being here with us. You could have been anywhere in the world, and you've chosen to share your precious moments with us today, and I'm very, very grateful. So, with today's guest, I am happy to share with you this awesome individual. Her name is Dr. Joy Kong, and she is a UCLA-trained triple board certified physician in the realms of anti-aging, stem cell. She's also a stem cell specialist. She's an educator and a CEO. She's the founder of AAPA Center for Regenerative Medicine in California. She focuses her efforts on the prevention of aging, as well as chronic diseases that no one else has been able to heal. Dr. Kong believes that complete healing can only come from looking at the whole person. Love it. Mind, body, and soul. This has allowed her to address the root causes of health issues and lead her patients to fuller, more vibrant lives. Love it. So without further ado, please welcome Dr. Joy. Hello.
Hi, Dr. Colin.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here with us. I was perusing through your website. We don't know each other offline, but you do so many great things. You have a very impressive resume. So I really appreciate you taking the time out and joining with us for today's episode.
Oh, I'm so appreciative of the opportunity. Thank you, Colin.
Awesome. So this is very, very interesting. I think we were talking a little bit offline, and I haven't really had a guest that specializes or is a expert in regenerative medicine. And I'm super stoked, and I'm sure a lot of audiences, when you look at media, you look at the checkout line, you look at, any commercial, any cover, right? Probably more predominant for females than male. There's always some thing on, how to live younger, how to prevent, dying, how to live longer, things like that, right? We always want to, in a way, kind of optimize in that sense of the word, not just for wellness, which we talk about a lot here, but, what are the different facets of living longer, age gracefully, things like that. And, this episode, which we're going to get into, seems like we're going to really delve in it. And so I'm really glad that you're here. But before we go into that, I like to ask my guests the origin question: how you got from point A to point B, and how did your journey first start off towards regenerative medicine?
It's been a long journey because we just mentioned briefly, I spent my first 20 years in China. So in Beijing on this science and technology university. So I've always loved science, and medicine was really sort of, there's a dichotomy of Western medicine and Eastern medicine. Both are used and kind of without discrimination. So I grew up with the idea that sometimes Western medicine works better, sometimes Eastern medicine better. No one is superior, but one is superior in some aspects. Especially, I understood for chronic conditions, the Eastern medicine is able to look at the body as a very complex whole. And that has achieved better results in these chronic conditions. So that's what I came with when I came to the US. And when I decided to study medicine, I got sidetracked because I've always been fascinated by the brain. So I got into psychiatry. And so I ended up doing psychiatry for 11 years. That's including residency. So I saw lots and lots of patients. Of course, there's psychotherapy involved. There's a lot of medications involved. But one missing piece was looking at the body as a complex whole. We're just focusing on the brain as if the brain is floating in midair, connected with the body, maybe with a little thyroid that's hanging in the middle.
Maybe with a thyroid. Can't forget the thyroid.
We check the thyroid, just a TSH. Never mind, it's so much more complex. TSH is okay. Your thyroid is fine. Then we'll bombard your brain with drugs. So that was the approach. So after doing that for that many years, even though I helped a lot of people, but I knew I was not fundamentally healing them to the point where I should have. I could have made them so much better. And that's when I encountered anti-aging medicine, which to me is almost like a great marriage between Eastern and Western medicine, because you're using the methods or the kind of philosophical ideas of how complex the body is. You're looking at all these factors, and you're also investigating some old therapies. But then you're using the new scientific language to explain why things may work and how they work. So that was one way for me to integrate it too. So to me, that was, okay, that's it. That finally I found something that I can be excited about. And stem cell therapy is part of anti-aging medicine. That was right away, it was introduced. And of course, I was excited about stem cell therapy, not because we were taught very much in medical school about stem cell therapy. Right. I think they mentioned what stem cells are, and that's about it. They talk about embryonic stem cells, and really there's nothing much more. So I still thought that it was all in experimental stage, that people were just doing research, that there was nothing that could be applied clinically, until I met this doctor who treated this young boy with autism using umbilical cord blood stem cells. And this young boy just flourished with all these incredible changes in behavior, in cognition, in sociability, speech. It was profound, because me having been in psychiatry, I did not like treating autistic kids, because I felt all the doctors who were training me, they were just throwing drugs to sedate the kids, right? To calm them down, to just make sure they don't cause any trouble. And there was nothing that was fundamentally improving the function of these kids. So it was very depressing. But then seeing a simple stem cell infusion causing these drastic improvements in so many aspects of this boy's life, that was incredible, because I knew stem cells can be very powerful. But if they don't work in real life, it's not worth anything. But to actually see it changing people's lives. So that's when I thought, okay, I need to learn everything about this. And then I just went down a rabbit hole. So the rest is
That's awesome. So I definitely hear that. And I hear that a lot. Let's go back to the beginning where you said that you're in psychiatry, you spent 11 years there, and, you looked at medicine from just the head up, right? And I find that, when I entered into medicine and I decided, okay, there was two pathways, right? For me in my head, either, you like to talk to the patient, right? And practice medicine, or you like cutting things and being in the operating room. There was only two roads, right? And I just felt that, I just enjoyed the rapport, right? And so I went down to medicine. And then when medicine, that road, juncture came by, you're just inundated with so many different pathways of where to go, right? And so my mother, she's a, practicing, Chinese medical doctor. She's been doing Chinese medicine, acupuncture for decades. And, similarly to what you were saying, very, very holistic, preventative, very holistic approach. So it was a hard dichotomy to kind of get over, when you see so many different branches of medicine, and then you're looking at it as if, every specialist is very good at what they do. And as a primary care physician, you know your limitations of what you know. And, I'm okay with either referring or handling off to someone else that can go deeper. But at the end of the day, when I took a step back, it almost seemed like they were a lot of different puzzle pieces, and they were not putting, all together into a big jigsaw puzzle to be able to see the complete picture. So I say all that to say, to kind of comment on what you're saying, how it is important to look at, things, in a complete picture, be able to integrate all these different puzzle pieces. So that's, awesome that, you were able to kind of, take a step aside, and, do that pathway. How did the mentor, it sounded like a mentor, in terms of regenerative medicine, how did that come about? Was it a chance meeting, or was it, really resulted in you looking for a different pathway because of your, kind of like dissatisfaction of, the conventional side of medicine?
So the first person that showed me the result about stem cell therapy, that was kind of my introductory. So I wouldn't call him a mentor because, he was just excited clinician that was using the product and was getting good results. And what I thought was going to be a mentor, and quickly I kind of outgrew this person because I realized he had not really read that many articles, but he's able to make everything sound really interesting. And this comes to the whole side of regenerative medicine that gets a bad rep, because there are a lot of people who are in it for the business, for the money, and not paying, as much attention to the science and to making sure that they're producing something that's the best for patients. So that I got disillusioned. So first of all, this one person who I thought could be my mentor, and quickly I realized he wasn't very, very well read. And so I thought, okay, so I guess I'm on my own. I need to figure things out myself. So let me read, let me try to answer all these questions I have in my head, which include, what are these stem cells? How do they become these different lineages? And how do these different lineages, exert different benefits? And why are we picking a particular lineage to use for therapy? So all these questions, I needed to answer them myself. And that's when I just read and read and read. I just spent a lot of time on the couch and reading. And the good thing is that gradually, things are becoming more clear, including, what stem cells do I choose? There's so many different sources. I can choose to use cells from a person's own bone marrow or own fat. There's, people using menstrual blood, and there are people who are using animal sources, and there's birth tissue sources, right? And of course, there's embryonic source and fetal source, which we don't use in this country. But when it comes to legal and ethical, is either using a person's own or using birth tissue, which are usually discarded after the baby is born. Healthy baby is born. So I ended up just really collecting all the information I could find, so I could convince myself what I'm going to choose to use for patients, what will be the most effective source, and what will be the safest for patients. So that was the first question I had to answer. And then, of course, I wanted to collect all the data on evidence for different conditions. What have research shown? Has this been helpful? What about autoimmune disease? What about neurological condition? What about dermatological conditions? So because people keep coming to me also, doctor, I have this. Do you think stem cells can help me? And that will be my great opportunity, because I love these. It's almost like vignettes, right? I remember in medical school loving vignettes, because that gets me my attention. Like now I'm excited. I'm trying to answer a question. So if somebody asks me a question, all of a sudden I'm a lot more excited to find the answers. So that's how I just kept accumulating all this information and all these articles. And eventually I realized I have so much material that I really should share with other providers. And that's when I founded American Academy of Integrative Cell Therapy. I started teaching training courses, fundamentals of stem cell practice. Now is online. So we do offer doctor's certificates. And so that's kind of my contribution to help spread the knowledge.
That's
Um,
awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so before you go any further, let's go back to the basics, just to orient the audience a little bit. So, describe, if you can, what is stem cell, therapy, right? How is it? What is the role of it in terms of healing and repair? And I guess, what is it not? So just to kind of, orient the audience.
I think when stem cells first came about, when we found out that there are stem cells in the body, because the people used to think that they didn't think there were they didn't know what stem cells was. And then they realized, oh, bone marrow, I guess there's stem cells in it. And then they realized, oh, I guess there's stem cells everywhere. So of course, the first, embryonic, the fertilized egg, that's a stem cell. And then you have all these other stem cells that's in the embryo. But then they thought in adult body, there's no more stem cells. So after we discovered there are stem cells, but then there are also all kinds of stem cells. So what can you utilize? Initially, people think, oh, great, now we've got stem cells. So we can let them differentiate so we can replace the tissue of, a particular tissue. So create new cells in that tissue. And then in the last 15 years or so, research has been pretty resounding in that understanding the stem cells are changing the environment of the body, and they are sending the body the right signals so your own body can regenerate, because you do have tissue-specific stem cells. They do decline with age, but still you have a lot of them. But a lot of them are just lying dormant. So let's say you injured your cartilage in your knee, and it's inflamed. Everything just sits there, you're in pain, and nothing is moving anywhere. But if you give it the right signals, these stem cells can calm the inflammation and then not only bring the immune system to remove these damaged cells, but also talk to the local cartilage progenitor cells and telling them, hey, it's your time to divide and produce new cartilage. And then you can have cartilage regeneration. So it's about this kind of conducting the symphony of regeneration, that you're changing the environment and you're bringing different troops from different parts of the body, and then giving the right directions, sending the right orders so your body can regenerate. So I think this is, in the last probably 10 years or so, it's becoming more and more evident that is the main benefit of what we're doing with stem cell therapy. Not that stem cell therapy is not going to progress. We're still at the beginning stage of stem cell therapy, but as far as what we're using right now, that's where we're at. We can certainly, use embryonic stem cells or other early stem cells, or even getting your skin cells to revert them back to pluripotent state and make them differentiate into particular cell type. But that is sometime down the line. We're not there yet. But I think eventually we're going to get there. But from what we have, we are looking at this coordinating, this signaling effect of the cells.
So that's very interesting. So in terms of the signal, does it come from an external outside of the body, or is it something that we have to kind of manipulate within the body in order to signal these cells to turn on, per se?
Well, I think as our body gets older, it gets more and more inflamed. So a lot of the signaling pathways are shut down or muted. So these young stem cells, which I prefer, a person can use a person's own fat or bone marrow derived stem cells, but as the person gets older and older, they're going to be less and less effective. They're just going to lose potency, and they also have higher chance of promoting cancer growth. But the younger cells are much more potent and safer, and they can actually change the environment of your body. They emit these signals, so they're full of information, right? These are young, life-giving forms that has these fresh new DNA, right? Fresh new mitochondria. Everything is fresh. They're ready to work. So the signal comes from them. Not that other signals in your body doesn't count, right? We still need the right hormones, the right vitamins, the right microbiome. All those other signals are important. But if you don't have the engine to make you regenerate, to modulate your environment, to make it less inflammatory, then you're going to be stuck.
Mm,
I'm a big fan of functional medicine, anti-aging medicine, of course, because there's so many ways you can optimize the body, but you can't forget about stem cells because that is the engine of the body.
mm,
Because no matter how much damage I do to you, right, your body, the environment, insult, or injury, if I have enough stem cells, then I can replace the damage and I'm whole again, right? I'm new again. But if you don't have enough stem cells, then all the damage is going to stay. So you want to amplify the engine that's in your body. And that's why stem cells is so revolutionary, because it can upgrade your engine.
mm, mm. So a couple of other questions that came to mind is what determines, in terms of the stem cell, what causes it to decrease, or what type of factors, whether it's extrinsic or intrinsic, that kind of blocks the signals, for these stem cells to heal and repair from your clinical experience and, from what you've gathered so far?
Yeah. So, life is about attrition. So it's about growth, but then there's also about death. There's no cell that lives forever. So the mesenchymal stem cell, which is probably the most sought after cell type right now, is considered the holy grail right now in stem cell therapy. So these are signaling cells that are throughout your body. So anywhere you have blood supply, along the blood vessels, there are these mesenchymal stem cells. So they're just waiting. They're sensing what's going through the blood. They're having their pulses on the neighboring, in the environment. So they're figuring out what's needed locally and what's going on systemically. So these are, powerful regenerative cells throughout the body. So let's just look at this one type of stem cell. When we were born, every 1 in 10,000 cells is a mesenchymal stem cell, MSC. And when we reach our teenage years, it's already become 1 in 100,000. So you got tenfold less, proportion wise. And then when you reach your 40s, it becomes 1 in 400,000. When you reach your 80s, it becomes 1 in 2 million. So you can see the engine is dimming, right? You're losing your capability to regenerate. That's why you got, on the surface, you see all the skin, sagging and wrinkling, hair, all these external changes. But what people are not seeing is the interior changes in all your organs. Everything has wrinkling, has wrinkled up and shriveled, and, it just, that's everywhere. So there's an attrition rate. We're born with that many stem cells. And as we activate them and as we live our lives, as we're taking on all the environmental insults, they fight our battles and they die. They just don't live forever. So even though they have the ability to replenish themselves, but still there's a lifespan for them. So that's just a factor of life that we're running out of the juice.
What's interesting to me is, not too long ago, we pretty much couldn't live past like the 30s or 40s, right? And, with the evolution of discovering antibiotics, penicillin, the Industrial Revolution, all these technological advances, we keep, having longer lives, right? So I'm curious, with your work in anti-aging and regenerative medicine, how long can a human being live to, right? And how long do you feel should they live to, right? Because you have this balance of quality of life, a bit like functionality, because as we age, we go into, we file for disability. We do all these different things. And it almost seems like the longer we live, in a way that X and Y axis of that quality of life, seems to not really find itself. So where do you think the human being... Hey guys, if you are interested in having a consultation with me and actually see me one-on-one, the Chef Doc Lifestyle Medicine practice has partnered with Plant-Based Telehealth, and we offer lifestyle medicine consultations. So you'll be able to see me one-on-one, and I can go over your health history and seeing what we can do to fill in the gaps. We can talk about your physical health, anything from food to lifestyle to diet to setting up your kitchen to cooking preparation to grocery shopping to your mental health. I think it's important that we build our emotional resilience to talking about your sleep and how to stay hydrated and what are the best medicines if necessary, what are the best supplementations if necessary. And we do all this in a very concise manner, and it's a conversation. I take the time out to listen. I take the time out to really understand you from the ground up and to look at all aspects of your physical, emotional, and mental health. And please, drop me a line, schedule an appointment if you want to see me one-on-one. And I am very, very looking forward to learning more about you. And again, thank you so much for visiting here at the Chef Doc.
So yeah. I don't have direct human data, but I do have animal data.
Okay.
So they've done studies on animals, rats and mice, and the result has been pretty consistent. When they give regular IV stem cell infusions to these animals, starting at middle age, so maybe human age equivalent, mid 40s, they were able to extend their lifespan for about 30%. So that has been consistent, 30% extension. And it's not just extending lifespan, it's extending health span. So these rats, comparing to their peers that did not get stem cells, they are looking, healthy with nice furs, shiny furs, straight spine. They're moving around nicely. They're able to do the maze and their cognition's good. So they are having a good, mouse life.
Good time. Good time.
Like, I'm good. So, they were talking about how when the last mice died in the control group, hunched over, barely moving, very poor fur, and how all the mice that got stem cells are still running around, like there's nothing, like they're still youthful. So that from the animal perspective, so they were giving older animals, younger animals, stem cells. There's even a case where they were giving human stem cells. So stem cells, even across species, can still exert incredible benefit. So we are not all that different, from the rest of the animal kingdom, not that different. But I'm not a proponent of using animal, stem cells. I think they're perfectly good human stem cells. There's no reason to go for animal stem cells. But they've done in humans, they've done frailty studies. So when people reach, advanced age, 75, 80, they're very frail, easily, they lose their balance and their muscle tones are very poor. And how giving stem cells was able to reduce their morbidity and improve their quality of lives. And what's fascinating is not just that we are observing that these animals are living younger, they seem to be younger. They've done direct analysis of their tissue. So they were dissecting, taking out their muscle tissue or brain tissue. They were analyzing acetylcholine levels, different growth factor levels, different inflammation markers, biological waste product markers. So everything that marks the elevation of age, when you give stem cells, they all have come down to the younger level. So that was pretty, powerful evidence of the anti-aging benefits.
Does it, in a way, does it replace, it almost sounds like machinery is replaced, or is it just kind of like, if you think about like a garden patch, right? And you're trying to, you have, an old set of, let's just say carrots, right? And, would the analogy be correct where we're replacing older carrots with new carrots, or are we, just adding additional carrots, would you say?
It's an interesting analogy. So if you're thinking of carrots as the stem cells, then we're giving fresh new carrots. But if you think carrots are the human body itself, then we're just adding the right ingredient to make the carrots younger, I guess. So that's
Gotcha.
yeah. But we're definitely this is the first time in history we're able to add these new engines in the body. We didn't even know what it was. I mean, I know in history people had eaten placenta before, but I don't think that does you a whole lot of good. You're just digesting a lot of protein. But this is when we're able to preserve the live cells with active DNA, and we put in the body and let that intelligence go to work. So that's why it's so revolutionary.
That's awesome. What can you give us some examples on the type of conditions that you treat in your office?
Okay, so first of all, big disclaimer. I cannot claim to prevent any conditions using stem cells because there has been no FDA approval, except for one condition, which is blood reconstitution. So if somebody has blood cancer, some kind of blood disorder, they can, take out your bone marrow, completely shut it off, and then they replenish with new stem cells. So that's the only FDA indication. Everything else is off-label. So that said, I have seen great success in different conditions. So I tell people, even if a person comes to me with a obscure condition that no one has done research on, I look at how the condition came about, the pathophysiology, right? What caused it? So if there's inflammation as part of the picture, if there's immune dysregulation as part of the picture, if there's tissue damage, and if there's, possible fibrosis, scarring, and if there's poor blood supply. So any of these things, the stem cells can potentially be helpful because those are their mechanisms of action. They can promote blood vessel formation. They can break down scar tissue. They can salvage damaged cells, prevent them from going on programmed cell death. They can decrease inflammation. They can balance the immune system. They also have anti-cancer properties. They can directly kill cancer. They have antimicrobial properties. They can secrete antimicrobial peptides. So all these are the mechanism of action. So when I look at a patient, I'm never going to say, yes, stem cells will treat this condition, but I would say, this is how the stem cells work. And let's see if we can improve your function. So then I have improved functions for a lot of people, including people with COPD on oxygen tank and a lot of medications, getting off oxygen, getting off almost all medications, people with autoimmune conditions, with such as lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis, getting their quality of life back, being able to go back to work, doing really well, including been marker free, like this one lady, lupus marker completely free. And I've helped people with end stage liver disease who was in hospice, and it was completely, he went back 2 months later, all the levels were normalized. So this is somebody that had maybe a couple months to live in hospice. So that was really drastic. Help people with different of course, musculoskeletal issue. That's kind of the bread and butter, of the musculoskeletal repair. And people with, chronic, cardiac issues, atherosclerosis. I've helped people with osteoporosis, and then autism, and neurological diseases like Alzheimer's, ALS, Parkinson's, MS. So it's a very wide.
Sounds like it's a very broad and a lot of variety.
That's because of how broad.
Yeah. I like what you said in terms of, if we can understand the mechanisms in terms of the pathways of how that disease arrives, then you can pretty much figure out, okay, this is where stem cell could be indicated and where it could not be indicated. So let's ask that, who is it not for? Are there any major side effects or any contraindications?
So I think when I first got into the field, there was one of the only contraindication if somebody has existing or recent cancer, like recent within the last 5 years, because of the concern of stem cells promoting growth, making everything grow. But the more I look into the scientific literature, the more I realize that the evidence of promoting growth is mostly from cells that are from a person's own body that has lost a lot of intelligence, that are not able to detect that a cell is cancer cell. And so it's telling everything to grow. But if you look at umbilical cord derived stem cells, the overwhelming evidence is actually anti-cancer. So it helps get rid of cancer. I mean, there's one study that can't be more, obvious. They had these cancer cells in a petri dish or on animal's body, so both in vitro and in vivo. So these are glioblastoma multiforme cancer cells. And then they put either umbilical cord-derived MSCs next to these cancer cells, or they put fat-derived MSCs next to the cancer cells. When the fat-derived MSCs are next to cancer cells, the cancer kept growing. The umbilical cord-derived MSCs next to cancer cells, the cancer starts to go away. That's how drastically different they are. So then later on, realizing the differences between these different types and the possible anti-cancer properties of these cells, I no longer consider them a contraindication. I still inform patients that this has been reported, this has been a concern, that you understand that this is a potential risk, even though the risk is extremely small. But I inform patients. So it's up to them to decide. I've done IV stem cells on myself every 3 months for the last 6 years. And my belief is that if I do have any cancer cells, which we all have floating around in my bloodstream or anywhere, that these new cells are going to get rid of them. So that's just what I believe, and from what I've seen from the scientific studies. So that is one aspect. And then the only other people I'm kind of cautious about are people who tend to have hypersensitivity to a lot of things. So these are people who tend to have hyperhistamine reactions. They are breaking out in a rash with a lot of things, not only things from the environment, from food, but also from medications. So these are the people I'm more cautious about, because they break out with a lot of things, including what I'm going to give them.
They're just one big puff, red, swollen, inflamed ball walking around.
I know. I feel so sorry for people with that kind of condition, but I do give them something to calm the histamine system before I do the stem cells. So it's not really a contraindication, but something that I'm cautious about. If someone is really concerned, then maybe we'll reconsider some other ways of doing it, including possibly exosomes.
Okay, awesome. Well, this has been an enlightening conversation. If I gave you a crystal ball, Dr. Joy, where do you foresee the future of regenerative medicine? Can we get to the point where, we can be like a starfish where an arm gets cut off and we can grow back our arm? Or is that still sci-fi? What do you think? Where do you see the future?
I think we're going to get there. Yeah. But we're so far away from that. Because right now, even though stem cell therapy has been around for 20 years, has probably one of the most incredible positive results from all these research. I mean, it's incredibly encouraging in all these conditions, and has minimal, almost just such minimal side effects. With all these research, it's still not FDA approved. We're facing way more obstacles right now to popularize, to really bring this to people. So I don't think, as a natural therapy that is helping people to stay healthy and helping them getting off medications, that's really giving pharmaceutical companies any encouragement, and they can't. It's very difficult to patent natural substance, so there's not very much incentive. So by the time some big pharma decide to manipulate the cells and patent it, the price is going to be probably sky high. So when we have perfectly natural therapies without manipulation that we can give to people to produce these incredible results, so that has been, in a sense, suppressed. So that's what we're facing. But people want it. This is a grassroots movement. People come to me all the time. People find me because they're desperate, because their doctors are not helping them enough. They have no hope for a better life. So people want it. And I can't tell you how many times a doctor was telling me, hey, can you teach me how to do stem cell treatment? My patient is asking for it. So I have a patient who really wants to do this. So because people want it, and we doctors have to catch up. So eventually, either as a country, we wake up, we want to save people's lives instead of just watching the bottom dollar amount, or we fall behind other countries who are willing to take the extra mile, who are willing to just, put people's health first. Then other people are going to be ahead of us. Americans will be traveling to other countries to get stem cell treatment. And to some point that people are already doing that. So that's one potential direction. But when we come to the general direction of stem cells, I do believe that hopefully within 15, 20 years, stem cell therapy is going to be as commonplace as antibiotics. I use antibiotics because it's used everywhere. Everyone accepts it. And you use antibiotic for prophylaxis, right? Before you go to surgery, you take one. You don't think twice. Yeah, okay, it's good for me. I'm not going to get infected. It's going to be the same thing for stem cell therapy. You're going to take it regularly, so you slow down the aging process. You're younger. You're more vibrant. Your brain function better, and you're living a higher quality of life. And then if you do get sick, then take some extra stem cells. That's going to help you to fight the condition, right? You just got. Yeah. And if you are trying to get surgery, which, it's always going to happen, we hurt ourselves and sometimes it's needed, then do some stem cell prophylaxis, right? Stem cell pre-treatment. So your surgical outcome is going to be so much better and you're going to heal 2 or 3 times faster. So it's going to be part of even the surgical realm. So I just think one day it's going to be no big deal.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. I'm a big proponent of, at least introducing the idea, understanding, the capabilities of a certain modality and how we can integrate that. I think there's more than one pathway to, healing, natural healing, optimal wellness. And I think that, we're in a country that is almost if not 20% of our gross domestic product, eating up by, trillions and trillions of healthcare, costs. Each one of these chronic diseases are in the billions, and we need to find better solutions. And so, yeah, I totally agree that we need to catch up. We need to, think in the box, outside of the box, and do, a little bit of non-traditional work within a, traditional setting. Dr. Joy, it's been a pleasure. One final question before, a couple questions actually, is you had mentioned that, you believe in holistic care. So for yourself, what are some routines and habits that you practice on your own, to be, better optimize your day so you can get up out of bed and, get yourself raring to go for the day ahead?
I think eating healthy definitely is number one. So I eat a plant-based diet. I can incorporate some, animal protein, healthy sources once in a while, but I mostly focus on plant-based diet and just nutrient dense. And I exercise every day. So I do believe we need to move our body every day. So whatever form of exercise you can put in, you can walk. I do Pilates, I do Zumba dance. So everything that is, whatever that inspires you. Us humans, we're meant to move. So that's really important for our health. And then I love infrared sauna, which helps detoxify the body. Detoxification is really important, especially in this current, environment.
World.
Yeah. And I use some energy therapies, red light therapy. I do inversion table where I, improving blood flow of my brain. And so there are different hacks. I do use some peptides sometimes, some IV infusions, and definitely IV stem cells on myself. I can show pictures of me comparing to what I looked like 7 years ago. I look a lot younger, even though I'm supposed to be aging 7 years. So all these are my tricks.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, the goal is to really live a fuller, high quality of life. And, here we talk about the foundations and pillars, and, I think it's also important to see what else is out there, and, for me personally, it's not the first time I've heard of this, but for our audiences, some of us, it is. So with that in mind, how do people find you? Where are you based, and how do they reach out to you?
Yeah, I'm in Los Angeles. So in San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles, my clinic is actually behind me. It says Uplyft Longevity Center. So they can just find us on uplyftcenter.com. So Uplyft with a Y. And I have a YouTube channel that I provide a lot more information on stem cell therapy. I actually just did a new video yesterday on 5 common mistakes that doctors make when they do stem cell therapy, because I've seen that over and over again. So I just felt like I need to share. But there are a lot of nuances to stem cell therapy, including, how do you look at other people's DNA in your body? What about the different stages healing in stem cell therapy? What about, stem cell therapy overseas? Are they better? So I cover all those subjects. So the channel is just Joy Kong MD. So people can, go on and peruse. And I also started podcasts. So I'm interviewing some really wonderful people. So it's a fun channel.
Awesome. Dr. Joy, it has been a pleasure, for you to share and enlighten us with anti-aging, regenerative medicine, and stem cell therapy. I look forward to see where it continues to advance, and, maybe kind of do this whole Benjamin Button type of scenario.
You should. This is the first time I
don't know, but I already keep getting the question, when do you, did you just graduate yesterday? So,
but I tell people this is the first time in history that we can actually reverse aging. You can be the most powerful kings and queens, and it doesn't matter who you are in the history. You're getting older and you're declining. And this is the first time we have this really, really powerful tool. So utilize it.
Yeah, that's super, super exciting. So definitely check her out. Dr. Joy, thank you again. Guys, thank you so much for watching this episode. If you like this, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you felt like this was a benefit for someone else, please let them know. And until then, please say goodbye to Dr. Joy. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that episode. We hope that you enjoyed it. If you like this, please like, follow, and subscribe. And please follow us for the latest updates for this season, season 5. And if you feel that this was a benefit for someone else, please let them know. And please follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and YouTube. And thank you so much again. And we will see you on the next one.